welcome back to TARTLEcast. Jason and I were having a discussion the other day via text because we just can't stop talking to one another. And we wanted to talk about some definitive things around the sort of the design and working of the marketplace itself. There's all this talk and chatter around, like Bitcoin. It's the solve. Mm-hmm. It's the definite. And like you were saying, they take, principles of physics and things like that, and then they say, Bitcoin does this. This is the fix. In some ways it does. There are some definite truths that are happening there. But if you go a little bit deeper, it's a lot of people I have done the work on it. It's not so much about the tool itself that is Bitcoin, right? As what people coin as a currency, no pun intended. It's really more about the idea of what it stands for, which is something that you and I talked about. It's about being self-sovereign, being self-sustainable, not having a reliance on a government, finding my own responsibility. And then as a community coming together and determining socially what we deem that value. It's the balance of power is back in play. It was out of the shift was more like our governments are in control, the central banks are in control, and they're like, well, that's gotten a little out of hand. It doesn't help us out very much. Let's shift back towards us. And this is just Bitcoin and the community around it, the memes and everything are a sounding board for really that sort of that social idea, that social change that's happening.
Yeah, that decentralized view. Whenever you look at government, in our big seven, we have government, corporate transparency, but then you look at big tech corporations that are taking our data. Because I want to correlate this before we get into the marketplace. I want to make sure we understand the philosophy of data, and we've done a whole podcast on the philosophy of data. But
right.
It's important that you understand that you're creating this data. This is property that's yours. You have, just as you own a house, you own your data.
Does anybody own your thoughts? No, you do. You have to think about something before you do something. And when that action is done, you own that action.
And data is a language.
Data is a language.
So just as you speak words, whatever language.
Or think thoughts.
Yes.
Data captures that. It captures those things of you, about you, under your control, of your ownership, for you to share when you choose to do so. And
we're all, if we're on any type of device, and what's the world? What's the percentage? 60% of the world has cell phones now?
Yeah, I think there's 4.3 billion. There's 7.5 billion people, 4.3 billion of which have a smartphone.
Yeah, so majority of people have some type of phone. So they are creating data.
Yes.
If you're going on a social media site, you are creating data.
Yes.
You have the ability through TARTLE's marketplace to sell that data.
Yes.
You, as a buyer, have the ability to come onto the marketplace and buy data from people.
Right. So that you, as that buyer, can learn from people and their thoughts and actions.
So let's get into this marketplace. And this was something I was texting you, is that most markets are, like New York Stock Exchange is 9:30 to 4, East Coast time. So, and then it goes into the Australian market, the Asian markets, then London hits, so you have this time, and it's Monday through Friday, holidays, they're off, because we have to understand, and this is very important, is the market can only stay open that long because of the human capacity to control that market.
Correct.
So you have a certain amount of workers that work at the New York Stock Exchange. They have this that they've set up probably very efficiently and have the ability, and this works best for that marketplace.
And the banks that choose to interact with that marketplace.
Yes.
It works on their time.
And we've chosen to give value to that marketplace and say this marketplace is legit, just as with currency or whatever. This is legit. It has value. And so now we're at, 20,019, whatever the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And that's even something too, where we take this industrial average and we turn around and say the market is based off of this.
Yeah, growth is based off of this. Finance does not define human evolution or growth.
Yes.
Not at all. An increase in dollar value does not mean the planet lives longer. But the value of what is created through these marketplaces is limited from 9 to 5. You're going to limit the capacity for growth, change, and everything because of time, because it's comfortable for one country itself? No. We needed to open up and become inclusive and global, which means your marketplace has to be open 24/7 for everybody to interact with when it works best for that individual.
And it limits people, whether you have Robinhood or whatever you may have. You have to have monetary funds, fiat currency, to turn around and purchase assets that you hold.
Right.
Or turn around and you can sell them. Buy and sell. Whereas TARTLE's marketplace, not only is it 24/7, but you have already created assets that you can turn around and sell. But you're creating these automatically daily.
All the time.
Right.
So if you're making these things all day long, but not turning them into an asset
Mm-hmm.
because you're not a part of TARTLE, well, that's what benefit are you making then from all these thoughts and actions you're creating?
Mm-hmm.
You're like leaving all these resources and opportunities behind you. You're not utilizing them. TARTLE asks you to passively utilize all these things. Put them all in there. Store it safely, and then earn from that storing.
And the beautiful part is, as you're creating this data, you're turning around and making you as a human nowadays is defined by our data. So you, human, creating data, going to TARTLE, a 24/7 marketplace, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in Nigeria, Pakistan, wherever you may be, you are turning around, creating this data. Now you are able 24/7 to log into this marketplace and take ownership of your data.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, because I want to get into this a little bit more before we get into the Antifragile part of it, but when we talk about taking ownership and being responsible for something that you're creating.
That's what ownership is.
Yeah.
That's the key word, responsible. You need to be responsible. Be responsible for your thoughts. Be responsible for your actions. Be responsible for your interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if those are captured as data right now in this day and age, it's your responsibility to say, okay, it has been captured.
Mm-hmm.
This is me. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to take the responsibility of managing this thing I've been creating.
And not give because you're giving your sovereignty and responsibility to a third party, to someone else.
And when you do that, you limit your power,
Mm-hmm.
you limit your free will, you limit your economic opportunity, and you limit the learning of yourself because you're not reflecting on it and you're not using it to your advantage. TARTLE
like that.
offers you an opportunity to create advantage for yourself, advantage in life, advantage in understanding.
Well, I mean, number 7 on our big 7 is economic equalization.
Right.
And explain the equalization when it comes to data.
Yeah, equalization. Okay. If we're looking at equalization, it's not in the sense that everything is the same across the board.
Right.
It's the opportunity of that data. We are all equal in the creation of that information. We all have the equal opportunity to earn off of that. No one country or person, wherever they may be, from the Philippines to British Columbia, there's no difference dependent on the geography. Everybody has access to it. The choice is yours.
So you're telling me the marketplace is on a level playing field?
It's completely
for everyone?
level. Why? Because our framework is a human framework. It requires that balance and, unifying principle of everybody. If we look at everybody as a human being, it allows us to understand and open up opportunity for all human beings, not limit it to one developing country or one that isn't developed.
Yeah, so I wrote back after we were talking about the 24/7. I said our marketplace has endurance.
Yes.
So because it's whenever we look at data as an asset that you're creating daily, that data, because I want people to understand the difference between an asset and a data asset. Like, do you know what I'm saying? And I want to kind of be philosophical in this.
If I go to list a vase
Mm-hmm.
on eBay or a painting or a laptop, I have one of that physical asset or some sort of limited quantity. The endurance of that ends when that thing, that material thing, is now out of my control.
Yes, exactly.
I have sold it.
Mm-hmm.
It is gone. Somebody else now possesses it. Data is always your possession. It can always be
I like
grown.
that. Yes.
It can be evolved. It has no limit. It has endurance because you can copy, recopy, expand, refine all day long. Changes within that value itself. And the more you know about yourself and the more you can share those deeper knowings, the more value you receive for doing so.
Yes.
That is endurance in evolution. Evolution never stops. The marketplace was designed to evolve with you evolving. So as humanity evolves and we evolve in our understanding, that perpetuates forever into the future, essentially this boundlessness.
Yeah, and it gives endurance because it's global 24/7 in the sense of, the marketplace. The marketplace is dependent on sellers and buyers, yes, but there's how many people did you say?
4.3 billion.
So until 4.3 billion people are on the system selling and buying data, there's a growth that is unlimited.
That's correct. And we are sapping our growth by not interacting with one another on this marketplace, using this tool to be advantageous for us as a collective, as human beings.
So not only is it 24, not only does it have endurance, but it's anti-fragile.
Of course it's anti-fragile. It's anti-fragile because if economies collapse, where do people go to seek more earnings? They do it online. They're going to do it with their phones.
Right.
Economically, we're anti-fragile. The system itself, if one country doesn't choose to use it, 221 more will come and adopt it. If some piece of information is not working, a better one will come in to take its place because the market is free. And a free market is allowed to evolve. It is allowed to be weathered by time and then change and strengthen itself to where these catalysts drive it to be. That catalyst is human beings interacting on this marketplace. It is anti-fragile because it brings people together in a unifying, cohesive nature. When we're brought together as a group, as a coalition, there's great strength in something like that.
Let's stay there because another word that you used about the marketplace when we were texting is inclusive.
It's inclusive, right? Black, white, Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Buddhist, spiritualist, anarchist, it does not matter. We're here for understanding and sharing those truths about ourselves and our experiences. We do not prevent those from coming on to do something like that because of where they are or how they look or how they think, walk, talk, or act.
Well, I like the inclusive part of the data marketplace because it puts everything at a level playing field. Like you just mentioned, Christian, Catholic, Buddhist, all those. Your data is worth something to a buyer. Always. Regardless of your status of what you may feel like I'm an anarchist, like you mentioned them, or I'm a conservative Republican in the United States, or
person.
I go for what's the Liberal Party in UK, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. I guarantee you there's a buyer that wants to ask you questions and purchase your data.
Why? Because somebody wants to understand.
Yes.
And through that understanding is where we all begin to evolve.
So when it's inclusive, there's no greater than or less than.
No, and we couldn't limit the marketplace because if you limit truth, we would then be inhibiting everybody's evolution. It has to be inclusive. What good would it be to exclude people?
Yes.
There's no good that happens from that. There's no real learning of that experience if there's an exclusion factor. Is that clear?
Yeah, that makes sense. And you use another word, balanced.
Yeah, balance.
The marketplace is balanced.
For so long, we've been dealing with these asymmetries of power and things like that. Much like when we went back to the metaphor of the Bitcoin. It's that social move. I want to bring that power back to me. The power spectrum has been out of whack, so we need to bring things back into balance. Our climate needs to sit in balance. Our minds seek balance. Our bodies seek equilibrium. That's why we have changes in temperature, thermodynamic stuff. If we do not match that sort of balance to what's going on, we'll tip to one side, we'll fall over. We lack a supportive structure to continue to grow off of. If there's no balance, then there's no real learning that can happen here. There's no real fair exchange occurring.
Yes.
The market is, albeit free, but it also has to be balanced within its freedom.
Yes.
Because people can freely corner something, right? So how do we prevent that? Well, through an architecture of design, we prevent those from throwing a free market into a corner.
So the last one, and we'll close in this, and I think this is really good. So TARTLE's marketplace, the other word that you used, which I thought was great, is giving.
It's giving. It's giving in three senses, actually in all sense. You give your data to others. You give yourself earnings. Buyers give you money.
Mm.
The buyers are then also given knowledge. And then from that knowledge, they give you other benefits, services, and goods outside of the TARTLE marketplace because of that data. And then in the altruistic aspect, okay, the real giving aspect is that TARTLE has the big 7 involved with it. What that means is we have 7 targeted categories where you can choose to take your earnings and donate it, give it to not-for-profits or charities all across the globe so you can help support them in their efforts for what they are trying to champion. Because if you care about climate stability, or if you care about public health, or if you care about government and corporate transparency, you can put money towards those groups that specifically focus on it because you don't have the time to focus on it. But you do now have a resource to share with them so they can continue their focus.
So whenever we say TARTLE has endurance, TARTLE is giving, TARTLE's marketplace is inclusive, TARTLE's marketplace is evolutive.
Yep.
When we look at all of those, what do you think prevents people from signing up?
Lack of awareness.
Yeah.
Most people are like, why haven't I heard about you? Well, good things take time to hear about.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we share as a collective, the better off it is. And a lot of algorithms, we all know, people talk about fake news, right? You're inundated with all these other things that have been geared towards these algorithms. So we are something that is like completely against the grain. It's not typically going to show up in what you've been looking at.
Right.
And the ones that do find us ahead of time, congratulations.
So being an early adopter at TARTLE and signing up at tartle.co, what does that look like as far as because 2 things I want you to talk about and we'll close. Being an early adopter, what that looks like, and then why it's important to share after you sign up.
Yeah, being an early adopter says, I want to take a stance. I want to claim ownership of my data. I want to create more opportunity for myself, and I want to help the world at the same time. And in being that early adopter, you are leading the group. You are acting as an example for all those others across the globe. That's important for your local communities, for your family. You're a leader for businesses because they look to you to understand what they should be doing next. So as an early adopter, you take the very patient stance of coming in and saying, I am willing to wait, I am willing to share, I am willing to educate, because in doing so, there are great gains that can happen for all through this process. So when I come on, I am going to work with the data packets. I'm going to interact with that marketplace, and I will patiently wait for the value to come into me. This is an opportunity for you to receive that value. You had no other opportunities before. So being impatient is not going to help. But being patient with this process, being patient with a new tool that takes time to hear about, that takes time to learn, that takes time for people to adopt, once that starts to roll, then the value rolls in continuously. But it's going to be, a little up and down, a little volatile in the beginning to receive that value. But all you have to do is be patient. Wait. It doesn't require much effort for you to be a part of the marketplace.
And when you share, you're now not just taking ownership of your data, but you're turning around your friends, your family, those that you care about. It's humanity in its essence of who we are as a human when we share. It's this good in us.
Yes.
That says this is a good thing. This is helping humanity. It's my responsibility to share that to those that I care and love.
Right. Because if it's good for me, it must be good for others. Let me share with them, because the more of us that come together, the more value we create and the higher the probability of a better future for us all.